Hey, Rook Knight here. Thanks for joining me, and I wanted to talk about customizing your tools today, specifically tension wrenches. If you have a tension wrench and you're using your shrink tubing, that works good. It's quick, easy. It's gives a little bit of a handle, color coded, and everything. But honestly, it kind of looks junky. I mean, I don't really like it. So I did a little bit of an upgrade, and that's here. If you like the way that looks, we're gonna go through step by step on how I did it. So stick around and we'll go through a walkthrough and talk about how to make this. It's a bit cooler looking, I thought, and nice looking, and customizing my gear is one of my favorite things to do. So with that said, let's get into it. All right, getting started, we're going to need our tension wrench, of course, and this is the leather thread I use. It is, I believe, called Tiger thread. It's like 0.6 Tiger thread. Very strong, works pretty well for leather, so it should be fine for this. For strength wise, you're gonna need about 2 feet, and you're also gonna need a knife, pliers, and with that said, we're going to do a bit of measurement. I'm just going to wrap the kerneled part of the handle, the little bit of the textured part there. So you're gonna make a bit of a loop and a little bit more than what you're gonna be wrapping. And then you just basically start wrapping. It's pretty simple. I'm going to fast forward through this part just so until we get to the end rather, and then I'll explain a little bit more on what I'm doing for finishing it up. But yeah, just pretty much start the wrap. Try to keep the wraps consecutive and no gaps, and just start wrapping. One other thing to consider is not to tighten the wraps too tightly, only because it's going to make it more difficult when you pull the rope down to tighten the loop to finish your tying process. I'll show you that in a second. Also, we're going to be using resin in the next step to tighten everything so it won't be moving around anyway, so you don't have to worry about making the wraps too tight. Now we're coming to the end, and we're going to take our thread and put it through that loop that we made in the beginning. And we want to make sure we keep our line tight the whole time. So kind of keep a finger hopefully on there at all times, just so it doesn't unravel at all. And this is where the pair of pliers come in handy. It's good to get a really good grip. That's why you want to make sure you have strong thread, because it can kind of slide off. What I like doing is I bite down with the pliers and then roll the pliers. So I wrap the thread around the nose of the pliers, and then it gives me more torque to pull. And then you're just going to lock that thread into place. And that's pretty much it. You're done with this part. I'm just going to tighten it a little bit more. Kind of cinches it underneath the last few wraps. Takes that loop and makes it go under the last few wraps to tighten it and hide it. And now we have our finished product, and we just take a knife and we're going to cut both ends off. Hopefully without cutting our finger off. There we go, and then we'll just do the other side. And that's pretty much it. That's our halfway finished. The hard part's over for the most part. Next comes UV resin. All right, so the next step, we have our partly finished tension wrench there, and we want to try getting it to look like this. And this UV resin I bought works pretty good. It also came with the light. It was pretty cheap actually, and it also has a silicone mat. Highly recommend that. In case you splatter anything, it'll easily come off of it. Also, just a cheap paintbrush I grabbed. It helps me spread the UV resin. You can also, I recommend using something to grab it with, whether it be these locking pliers, or what I actually like using is this old thing for sharpening knives I have. So I'm going to use that. Just clamps down, kind of simple and easy to flip and stuff like that. Just a pain in the butt sometimes to get it to bite. Bear with me for a second. All right, once you have something to keep it off the ground so it doesn't touch, you want it to be, level so you're able to flip it and move it. Basically all I'm going to do is take the UV resin, put a little down on it, and start spreading it around. That's about it. I like using the paintbrush to, be able to spread it in the nooks and crannies. Makes it a lot simpler than trying to use my finger or something like that. And this paintbrush is cheap, so I could just throw it away afterwards. I'm not even going to bother cleaning it. It was a couple cents. It already used, actually an old one, so it definitely seen its prime. But it works well for being able to cover the UV resin. I'm going to add a little bit more, just to my liking. You could either do this in stages, even in coats. You could put a very thin amount of resin and then spread it, and then use the light, and then come back again and put a thicker coat on if you wanted to. It's all kind of up to you on that one. It depends on how comfortable you feel with using UV resin, but I've been doing this a couple times, so I feel pretty confident on being able to add the amount I need and be able to have it not drip all over the place or anything like that. So I'll just basically, like I said, doing the nook and crannies. Makes it a little easier if you have something. I think even a toothpick would probably work just as well if you don't want to waste a paintbrush. And these little pocket blowtorches work really well for popping any of the bubbles that sometimes get in resin. Also, if your resin is cold, it works well for, to make it run better, smoother. But that's about it. And then all you got to do is turn the UV resin, or I'm sorry, the UV light on, and you stick it under there for a couple of minutes and maybe give it a turn every couple of seconds. It doesn't take very long. I think a minute at the most, you'll be done, and we'll have a finished product. All right, and we're back after that sat under the UV light for a little while. That's our finished product. I thought it came out pretty decent. I really do like the way this looks, and it's heavy duty too. I mean, you can bang that around, and that's pretty strong. And honestly, if you don't like it, you could probably just cut it off. You could also use different colors, of course. I used this heavy duty thread for leather, but you can probably use a very thin paracord they have nowadays, I've seen. I'm gonna have to try that one day. You could also use different colors and try to personalize it even more. I really like the way these came out. Maybe this, sparks an idea in your head for something else you want to try. But with that said, I really do appreciate you guys sticking around watching with me and humoring me. And with that said, I'll let you go and hope everybody's doing well. We'll catch you all next time.